Welcome back, everyone, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki. This is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today, it's episode 22. Wow, 22 of these. Absolutely nuts. We've been doing this for 22 weeks nonstop. I'm loving it. We're going to be talking Inside Out 2 today, of course. I know what you're thinking. I know. Last week, Kiki said we were going to talk about Kinds of Kindness and the Bike Riders. Well, I have an inability to read the calendar, and I didn't realize that Kinds of Kindness actually comes out next week. So that will still come next week, I promise. I'm very excited for that. But this week we are talking Inside Out. My bad, I flubbed it. My head's been all over the place. I had my graduation just yesterday for university, so 6 years of school has come to an end. My second university graduation. This one was for my master's, so my graduate program. It was pretty fun. It was good. I think grad ceremonies are just always longer than they need to be. I don't know. They need to be revolutionized somehow, and the speeches were not very entertaining. I don't know. It was fine. I was very happy my parents got to come with me, but I will miss my university. I went there for 6 years, so it's going to be very weird just never going back. Like, I never have to, in summertime, think about packing up and moving into a new place or anything like that. So a very weird chapter turning in my life that is coming to an end, but I look forward to it. It is Friday, June 14th, and the Euros start today, so it's Germany versus Scotland, and if you're not a sports fan, I apologize. It's the hockey playoffs right now for the NHL, and it looks like Edmonton is going to be eliminated on Saturday night and lose the Stanley Cup to the Florida Panthers, so I'm going to predict congratulations to the Florida Panthers already. And for the Euros, my pick is France to win it, either France or, I think France or Portugal might make a deep run, but I don't know. I think France is a very good bet. It's summer. It's iced coffee season. There's sports still on. You know, we got the summer soccer happening. There's tons of good movies coming out. There's lots of projects being developed now that we are out of the writer's strike. We are, out of COVID. We're out of the pandemic. So the wheels are turning. We're good to go. And you know what? Let's hop right into it. Let's get right into the news. Okay, the first piece of news this week comes from Deadline, who were reporting that Steve Zahn, who, was in The White Lotus, hilarious, Planet of the Apes, he was in the third one, he was in Daddy Daycare, lots of stuff. But anyways, he has joined the new Glen Powell series called Chad Powers, which is a Hulu comedy series, and it's an upcoming half-hour comedy based on Eli Manning sketch that had aired on ESPN+. It's co-created and executive produced by Glen Powell and Michael Waldron. And the series follows a hotshot quarterback played by Glen Powell, whose college career has come to an end after bad behavior. He then disguises himself as the talented and affable Chad Powers, who walks onto a struggling Southern football team. Steve Zahn is going to play Jake Hudson, who's the charismatic head coach of the show's flagging college football program. He's about to be put out to pasture when along comes the talented oddball Chad Powers, and with him one last shot at glory. That sounds very funny. Steve Zahn, if you don't know, he's very funny. You should watch him in The White Lotus. That is, oh my God, season 1 of that show is just absolutely remarkably hilarious. It's one of the funnier shows I've ever watched. He's very funny in it as well. He's great in War for the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, that seems like a very good show idea. I like that idea that Glen Powell is kind of this washed up bad behavior college football player, and he's going to this other team and see if he can crack it under a disguise. It feels like Hitman, as I talked about last week, has kind of prepared him for that role. He loves just putting on disguises. We got to get him as Ethan Hunt or something like that in Mission Impossible. But no, that sounds really fun to me. I look forward to that developing, and I think I'm enjoying all the opportunities that Glen Powell is putting himself into. He's not just kind of, jumping into a comic book movie, or it's easy to just take a Marvel role right away once you hit some success, because they tend to offer it to literally everybody. And Marvel's going through its own stuff this week. It just lost the fourth Blade director or whatever, so Marvel is just kind of in the shitter right now. And there's talks of Jordan Peele in an X-Men movie. I don't know how accurate that is. Some people said that he met with Marvel and he walked away because the meeting just didn't go as they expected or something like that. But then other people are saying they talked about other things, but they want to offer him X-Men and he wants X-Men. So I don't know. I think a Jordan Peele X-Men movie. But anyways, this TV TV show with Glen Powell seems like it's going to be very funny. I think Steve Zahn is a good addition to the cast. He's a very funny guy. He brings a lot of, I don't know, he just plays very vulnerable. Oh, Diary of a Wimpy Kid as well. If people know the old Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, he plays the dad in that. So I think he brings a lot of great levity to the different projects that he's in. So I'm looking forward to that. But let's move away from comedy and let's kind of go into sci-fi. And I believe I mentioned on the show, we talked about Blade Runner 2099, that Michelle Yeoh has been cast as the lead. Well, it was in the last couple months, Euphoria season 3 has been talked about very widely and more intensely. Well, it looks like it's going to be delayed for a very long time, and they encouraged everyone to just take on other projects because we don't know when we're going to get back to it. Well, Hunter Schafer, who is in Cuckoo and is in Kinds of Kindness, which we'll talk about next week, she's just been cast in Blade Runner 2099 during the Euphoria delay. And it looks like she's landed a lead role in Amazon Prime Video's sequel to the iconic sci-fi franchise opposite Michelle Yeoh. Blade Runner 2099 is a limited series and is from showrunner Silko Luisa, who did a thing called Shining Girls, and executive producer Ridley Scott, who did, of course, the original Blade Runner. Jonathan Van Tulleken, who did Shogun, is going to direct the first 2 episodes, so that's really good. Everything I've heard about the show so far is just a very good, and Schafer is, she's a model that's known for her acting debut in Euphoria, where she played Jules Vaughn. She was actually in the Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which there's some news related to that as well today. But yeah, she's also in Cuckoo, and she's just on a very good career path. I'm really liking. I think Cinema Joe was the one who got to interview Hunter Schafer at Cannes, I want to say, after watching Kinds of Kindness, and talked about how he loved Cuckoo, but also just talking about the career roles that she's picking. It's true. I think she's picking a lot of interesting projects to go with. One of those performers that right now that I'm really impressed with what they're picking, that they're not just kind of like Glen Powell. They're not just going with the easy things. They're making very intentional moves. Like I think Top Gun Maverick was just a phenomenal choice for Glen Powell, of course, because it is a huge movie. It made 1.2 billion or whatever it was. Then he did Anyone But You, so he can kind of, hover and do all these different things. But same with Hunter Schafer, same with Kaylee Speeney, who we talked about when I was talking about Knives Out 3. We've talked about her in Civil War. I just think there's a lot of great young performers right now that are being very, careful. Careful sounds like they don't want to be hurt, but I just think they're not being picky, but they're being selective with their roles and really just picking quality things, which I'm enjoying. I'm very much liking that, and I think Hunter Schafer is a good actress. She was very good in the new Hunger Games prequel, although that movie was a little bit long, which I don't often say about movies. It was a very long movie, but I really like the parts that she was in as Snow's sister. I believe that's her sister. And then her character is later in the series, I want to say in the 4th movie, where there's that like cheetah woman that lets Katniss into hiding. I want to say that's Hunter Schafer's character as well. But very cool for Hunter Schafer that she's going to be in Blade Runner 2099. I'm very excited for that show. I said this a few weeks ago, but I really just I want to watch Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 again. I don't know why I haven't. I've just been watching lots of other stuff, like I will mention in what else I watched when we get to that. Timestamps below. But some other great casting news that I'm very excited about. Emily Blunt looks like she's going to be starring in Steven Spielberg's new UFO alien movie, according to Variety. The movie, like all of Spielberg's productions, is very secret, and it's like an event film, so special effects and vast scope is what Variety is highlighting. It's based on a story that Spielberg conceived and boasts a screenplay from David Koepp, who wrote Jurassic Park, War of the Worlds, and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So not a great hit rate, but those are pretty good. And it's looking like Emily Blunt is still in early talks to star in the film, but she just came off of an Oscar-nominated turn as the alcoholic wife of J. Robert Oppenheimer in Christopher Nolan's blockbuster Oppenheimer, as well as Free Guy, which didn't do very well at the box office, but it was very well critically received. So yeah, Emily Blunt is very funny, but she's also just a great dramatic actress. So I think that's a great choice. Especially, I think she's really good if you watch like A Quiet Place. I think she's very good in like large scale event movies. Edge of Tomorrow, which just turned 10 years old, been 10 years since release just this week, I think. I love that movie. The first time I ever watched it, I was in Croatia on vacation, and I've watched it so many times since. I seriously love Edge of Tomorrow, despite the ending kind of being a bit of a backstep, but really liked it. And I think Emily Blunt is just a great lead actress to work in a Steven Spielberg UFO movie, which I'm very excited about. It comes out in 2026, so we're still 2 years away, but that looks like it's going to be very fun. I thought The Fabelmans was phenomenal. I think Steven Spielberg, he's still got the juice. I know he's like 100 years old or whatever, but he's still got the juice. He's still very skilled. He's one of the best directors ever, of course, and I'm very much looking forward to that. But enough about the old directors. Let's get to kind of our generation's directors. James Gunn's Superman movie has added 3 new cast members this week. Actually, no, 2 of them were in Peacemaker, sorry, but 1 new cast member for Superman. Saturday Night Live former actor Beck Bennett, who I thought was hilarious on Saturday Night Live. He was one of my favorite cast members in the few years he was on, or numerous years he was on. Well, he has been added to the new Superman movie. He's going to be playing a Daily Planet reporter, and I believe he's the sports journalist, Steve Lombard, and it's a very comedic role as I understand it, like a lot of the Daily Planet characters are. I mean, even Lois Lane is hilarious most of the time, and I think Rachel Brosnahan in that role is going to be so phenomenal. And although I haven't seen it, my mom watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I would often, walk by as scenes were happening, and Rachel Brosnahan was just so funny in that, and she got like nominations, Golden Globe nominations for that. So I'm really liking this cast. Steve Lombard will be a very fun character to kind of go along with goofy Clark Kent and everyone else, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White. It's a really great cast, and I'm still confused. Michael Rooker, we haven't heard who he's playing, because he's in every James Gunn movie or TV show or production or whatever. So I'm looking forward to seeing who he's gonna play and where he's gonna sneak him in. But yeah, Superman is being shot entirely in IMAX. It comes out next year, next summer in 2025. That's one of my most anticipated films for next year, I would say. I'm so excited for the new direction that DC is going to take, and we just found out this week as well that Creature Commandos, the animated show, is actually going to come out in December of this year. So, DC isn't entirely just waiting around. They still have new stuff that's going to be coming out, and I would say Creature Commandos really is like the first thing of James Gunn's DC universe, and he's working on Peacemaker right now at the same time as Superman. So, they're laying their foundations. I like the pace they're taking. They're not trying to rush it, which I think is important. So I'm seriously so excited for that. David Corenswet, I just watched him in The Greatest Hits. I think is just a very good actor. There's something very charming and drawn in, and you feel like he cares when you're watching him. And I think that's one of the most important aspects of Superman is you have to see that Superman cares about people, and he cares about hope and, justice. So I'm very excited for David Corenswet to take on this role, Beck Bennett to be a hilarious supporting character. I think this cast is looking really great. I think the movie's looking great, and I cannot wait. Also, some Hunger Games news. Speaking of Hunter Schafer and Hunger Games prequels, we are getting another prequel movie because Suzanne Collins is writing another book, and the movie is going to come out in 2026. So Collins is writing a new book called Sunrise on the Reaping, which is about Haymitch's character, played by Woody Harrelson, and it's 24 years before the original Hunger Games that we saw with Katniss, and the novel is titled The Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping. It's the 50th Hunger Games, also known as the second quarter quell, in which Haymitch Abernathy, portrayed by Woody Harrelson in the original series, competed. Haymitch Abernathy later mentors Katniss and Peeta in the 74th Hunger Games. So I think this is a really cool idea, and I'm pretty sure for Haymitch's Hunger Games, the amount of participants was doubled, so it was 2 men and 2 women from every sector. What are they called again? District. That's it. District. So yeah, it's going to be a big story. I think this could be a huge blockbuster. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes did pretty well at the box office, as I understand it, and it was a big success. I think it was mostly well received. It did pretty well critically and at the box office. So I totally understand why a new one's coming out, especially if there is a new book coming out. Why not just make another movie? Because people are still very interested in the Hunger Games movies. People are still discovering the books. The younger people are discovering the books. So why not make more movies, really? Okay, gun to my head, I have to cast a young Haymitch right now. Who would I want? Maybe Callum Turner from Masters of the Air. I don't know, another British guy to just play a young version of an American character. I think there's a lot of good actors. Maybe go with an unknown, go with someone, but I feel like you do maybe want star power to really make this a box office success. Although Tom Blythe wasn't huge when he played young Snow, and I thought he was phenomenal in that movie. I remember telling my girlfriend after, I want him to be in a billion more things because he was just such an interesting performer. Yeah, young Haymitch, I don't know. Maybe you go with a very popular actor. I'm not sure how old he's going to be. He'll be 18 or 16. We're still 2 years away away, so I don't know who they're going to go with. I kind of hope they go with maybe a rising star. It might be fun to see another Tom Blythe type performer. I know people probably know who he was before Hunger Games, but for me, he was an unknown. And then you get, the supporting cast, you get more recognizable people like Rachel Ziegler, who I also thought was phenomenal in that last movie. So I'm seriously looking forward to that. I've never read the books, but I rewatched all the movies, and I think like the second one is the best, and then Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is the second best, in my opinion, and the rest are like just fine. So I hope this one goes well like the last one did, because I really had fun with that. And speaking of successes that are just getting more and more sequels, Bad Boys 4 has been absolutely killing it at the box office. It has done so well. Like, I was reading this Hollywood Reporter article, and it made a good point that we were all looking to Inside Out 2 and Despicable Me 4 and Deadpool and Wolverine. We were looking to these movies to really jumpstart, summer box office, when it's actually Bad Boys 4 that has been straight up popping off, and it has been doing very well. It looks like the new one, Bad Boys Ride or Die, already made $125 million worldwide, with $74 million being made domestically and $50 million being made internationally. So that is a very good box office for 1 week being released. Like, that's more than Furiosa made in its entire run, right? Like, it's just very strange that this movie was so slept on, because as I remember, the last one did very well at the box office as well, and these movies have been very successful. Like, I don't get why people think that Will Smith isn't a huge box office draw. Like, a lot of people love Will Smith movies, so why wouldn't he be a box office draw? But also, the Bad Boys franchise has been around for years. Like, those first two movies I have seen 100 times and used to watch them all the time with my brother. I don't know why people were not expecting this, but it is a very happy surprise to see. And I think it was Will Smith this week talking about already doing a fifth movie because of the box office success. Like, obviously you base your conversations off of how the last one's doing, but this most recent one has been just killing it at the box office. Like, I was blown away on Monday when it said like it was already at 110 million opening weekend. So look, we've had so much doom and gloom bullshit for the last little while about the box office, and largely, yes, it is true. I mean, people have just been disgusting at the theaters, like going barefoot, going on their phones. It's like the theater experience isn't becoming what it needs to be. Like, it's just becoming like a jungle gym. And for something that's so expensive, you think people would, want to go to the movies and be well behaved and enjoy a film. But people go to just like, I don't know, just be gross and make it not fun for everyone. And then people are discouraged from going to the movies because of bad experiences. But I mean, Bad Boys is showing that people are still going to the theaters, and, movies aren't all failing because people don't want original ideas, blah, blah, blah. People still go to sequels. People are not sick of sequels. So I'm curious. I might go see it. I think I will go see it. I need to watch the third one on Netflix first. I added it to my watch list, so maybe I'll check that out tonight or this weekend after I watch The Boys. Which, speaking of The Boys, we got some big news this week. So season 4, I think, is the first 3 episodes have just dropped yesterday, which is Thursday, June 13th, and it's the lowest rated season they've had so far. I think it's at about 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, or 77. And Eric Kripke, who is the showrunner, he has announced that The Boys is actually going to be ending with season 5, and he said it was always his plan. I just had to be cagey till I got the final okay from Vought, but he's thrilled to bring the story to a gory, epic, moist climax, and you can watch season 4 now, or at least the first 3 episodes. And that being said, it is not the end of the Boys universe. They are rewriting Gen V because of the circumstances. They're also going to have other shows that they're thinking of within the universe. So by no means is this the end of the Boys universe. It is simply the end of kind of the Homelander and the Seven and, Billy Butcher and the Boys. It's the end of that story that we've had, which I think is good, because for me, season 3 was enjoyable, but we didn't really go anywhere with it. Like, we were just in the same circumstances that we were in at the start of the season. So it kind of felt pointless to me. It was fun, but at the end of the season, I found myself thinking we didn't make any progress. So what was the point of this season? I think the show should have ended in 3 seasons. Just like kill Homelander or kill Butcher or whatever needs to happen. You know what I mean? I just need some closure. There's always a danger in shows overstaying their welcome. And I already feel like scared going into season 4 that am I just going to not enjoy the season because season 3, nothing happened and I felt a little burned by it. We'll find out. I will keep an open mind going into it. I really do love the Boys TV show. I thought Gen V was awesome. awesome. I really enjoyed that as well. I'm looking forward to that. Lots of casting news this week. Lots of stuff happening. Pieces moving around. Finally, things are coming together after the stagnation of COVID and the writer's strike. And I think that about does it for the news. I apologize if the audio is different at all this week. I'm in a little bit of a different setup and I have my mic in a stand. So I don't know, it might be different, but I thought it was different last week because I had the air conditioning on and the furnace is near me. And it seemed fine when I listened back to it. So anyways, there's timestamps below in the description as always, so you can bounce around. If you want to avoid all inside out information because you're watching it soon, feel free, skip ahead to what else I watched. I have other things that I will talk about there. Or if you just wanted to hear the news and go straight to, non-spoilers and then skip the spoilers, whatever you want. As always, there's the description below where all that good info is there. Let's get into Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2 is a 2024 family comedy. It is an hour and 36 minutes long. Pixar's newest hit film. Google's In a Nutshell has it as profound, clever, and hilarious. I would agree with that. It is profound, clever, and hilarious, just like the first one. I think it's available everywhere now, like in theaters everywhere on June 14th or June 13th. The film is directed by Kelsey Mann, who did the first one, I believe, and The Good Dinosaur, another movie. It's a Disney movie, of course. The box office so far, I want to say 17.9 million, which is pretty good for the opening, I want to say. Like, it just opened last night, like I said. So that is very good. The music is Andrea Datzman. It has 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a 95% audience score. It has 74% on Metascore. So generally favorable reviews for this one. Just like the first movie had, the cast is absolutely stacked in this one. But first, let me read you the synopsis because we're going to really get into the weeds on the cast. So Inside Out 2, make room for new emotions. Teenager Riley's mind headquarters is undergoing a sudden demolition. To make room for something entirely unexpected. New emotions, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, who've long been running a successful operation by all accounts, aren't sure how to feel when anxiety shows up, and it looks like she's not alone. So there are some changes in the cast, which I really do want to talk a lot about the cast today because I think the voice acting has a big thing to do with the characterization of these different emotions. And, there's great voice casting in this, and there's also some, fine or subpar or kind of uncreative voice casting in this that I think they just cast a person because they're popular. But we have Amy Poehler as Joy, of course, or just basically Leslie Knope. I love Amy Poehler so much, and I love that she kind of plays the same character in a lot of things, like someone that is Joy and is just delusional and is just like blindly optimistic, which I enjoy. I enjoy people like that as well in real life. Then we have Maya Hawke, who joins as Anxiety. We have Kensington Tallman as Riley, Lisa Lapira as Disgust, Tony Hale as Fear, Lewis Black as Anger, Phyllis Smith as Sadness, Iowa Debris as Envy, Lily Mar as Valentina, Grace Liu as Grace, Samaya Nuruddin Green as Bree, Adele Chargeopoulos as Ennui, Diane Lane as the mom, and Kyle MacLachlan as the dad. I completely forgot Kyle MacLachlan is the voice of the dad. We have Paul Walter Hauser as Embarrassment, Yvette Nicole Brown as Coach Roberts, Ron Funches as Bluefy, James Austin Johnson as Pouchy. I'll stop there because there's so many voices in this. But as you can tell, like that list I've just read is pretty crazy. There is a lot of very famous people on there who have done very big projects and are very funny people. I do really like the cast for the most part. Like, I think this is just like the first one, I think the voices are pretty good. So let me just get my notes here. And okay, first, although it's not a revolutionary sequel, this is still a very enjoyable film. Like, it's very emotional as the first one was. It's funny, and I think everyone is going to connect with this on some level. We've all felt, that strange why the hell can't I say disorientation? Disorientation with puberty and, the world seeming kind of unrecognizable when you start to change and the world's unrecognizable around us. And I really loved the story that they wanted to tell in this one. And it is largely the same. I don't think you're going to hear a single review without someone saying this is pretty much the first movie, which with Pixar, that is sometimes very much the case, unless you are a Toy Story 2, where it really does feel like a revolutionary new chapter. But look, for the most part, I did very much enjoy this. So I really want to just talk about the cast for a moment. Amy Poehler as Joy, really solid. I'm not going to say amazing, because I do think it's kind of just the same performance as the first film. Like, she is Joy, and she realizes that she's being too controlling, and Riley can't just be happy all the time. She needs to experience the different emotions, and that's just how it is. So that's nothing to do with Amy Poehler. I think that's just the story. Although she does have some interesting things and different character changes in this story, she is largely the same as the first movie. Overall, this movie is kind of the same as the first movie. What I really liked was the addition of Maya Hawke as Anxiety. I think she is phenomenal. I think she's the best casting choice in this film. I think she's the best addition to this film. Her personification of anxiety and her voice acting was just so phenomenal. I don't think she's trying to do too much or trying to be a cartoon character. And I just really loved her in this role. I thought she was really great, and she was definitely my favorite of the emotions that have been added in this film. Kensington Tallman as Riley was really good. I think she plays this changing teenager very well, and the story takes place at 3 days at a hockey camp, and I think she plays Riley very well, like trying to find herself as she's hitting puberty. Let's get into a couple of the recasts quickly. So Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling did not come back. Instead, we got Lisa Lapira as Disgust and Tony Hale as Fear. Tony Hale you might know from Arrested Development, Veep. They're fine. I don't think they're as good as Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling, who are just so phenomenal in that first movie. I think Lisa Lapira does a better job than Tony Hale. I think Fear is fine in this movie. Like I said, fine. I think a lot of this movie is fine. Unfortunately, it's not mind-blowing and it's not terrible. It's fine. It's good. Like, it's a solid, enjoyable movie, and a lot of the acting and casting is fine. Lewis Black as Anger is really great. Like the first movie, I think a lot of the laughs come from him, of course. Phyllis Smith as Sadness is so great. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of The Office, and just hearing Phyllis kind of just play herself how she was on The Office was really awesome, because she was not an actress. She was actually, I think she was in casting when she started, or no, she was reading. She was like the person in the audition who would read the script back with the performer while they're doing their audition, and they just asked her, oh, can you read us Phyllis? And they just loved her in that role. So they asked her to play Phyllis in the show, but she's great as Sadness. And I think Sadness actually has a bit more to do in this film. It's less about her, but she still has like a little bit more to do as like a hero in the story almost. Iowa Debris is Envy. This is one that I feel was a little bit of a waste, because Iowa Debris is hilarious, and I feel like Envy is not that important in this film. She has a lot to do, but I just feel like Iowa Debris is kind of a pointless casting, because there's nothing unique about the way they use Iowa Debris or what they do with Envy. I feel like anybody really could have been Envy. Like, it's not, wow, look what they got Iowa Debris to do, where they're using her so well in this film. It's just kind of, okay, fine, like they got someone that's very popular right now, whereas, Maya Hawke, I feel like they use Maya Hawke so well, and they use her voice, which just sounds kind of naturally anxious. I don't know. Is that a nice thing to say? I feel like that's kind of mean, but I feel like they use Maya Hawke to her strength, whereas Iowa Debris, I don't know. I feel like Envy was kind of a waste on her. She could have been, Embarrassment or something like that. Like, she has a very insecure sound to her in a great way. I feel that's so rude to say, but she does. She just has a voice that like sounds almost like insecure or not confident, which is hilarious, because she plays, I love how she is herself. So I do think Iowa Debris was a bit of a waste in the Envy role, and I wish she could have got maybe a bigger part. The character of Ennui, which was a new addition played by Adele Exarchopoulos. Fine. I don't know. They got Ennui to just be this classic French personification of coolness or whatever. It's kind of funny at times, but it feels whatever. I don't know. It kind of just glances over your head and you stop paying attention to that character. It doesn't feel that revolutionary. I feel like that was maybe the weakest addition of characters. I think Envy was a little bit better, but I think Ennui was just like, was fine. I really liked Paul Walter Hauser as Embarrassment. He actually only has one line in this. I won't say what it is. I don't know, the character of Embarrassment itself. Maybe it's not Paul Walter Hauser that deserves all that credit, I guess. Like, the animation of Embarrassment and the physicality of Embarrassment, I just really enjoyed, and the body language. So I thought that was a really great character to add. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very it's an okay cast. I think the voice acting feels a little more subdued in this one, or a little more passive and just kind of going through the motions, which really pains me to say because I really enjoyed that first movie. Like, I rewatched Inside Out this week. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it's such a pillar of the Pixar movies. Like, Inside Out, you can watch it at any time, at any age, and it will just speak to you, and all of the emotions just like are part of growing up. And I still think this one has a very solid story to it, but it did feel very going through the motions at times. There's a couple of new characters as well, with Ron Funches as Bluefy and John Austin Johnson from SNL as Pouchy, who are these preschool show that Riley used to watch, and they're absolutely hilarious, but I'll talk more about them in spoilers. But overall, the cast, I felt the cast was very important to go over, because I think kind of the casting for this is a personification of what went wrong with this movie a little bit, that they kind of just went for generic what's popular, not even what's popular, but just like they went for recognizable faces for an animated movie, which makes no sense, because I feel there was a couple of miscasting. Like, I feel like they really wasted Io Debris, who is one of my favorite performers right now. I think they could have utilized her a little bit better. The new emotions, they're fine for the most part. I think Ennui is just like whatever, but I do think this movie was really hurt by Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader not coming back, because they're so great in that first movie, and I love Tony Hale as a performer. I think he's hilarious, and as Buster and as the assistant in Veep, but it does feel very weak compared to Bill Hader as Fear and Mindy Kaling as Disgust. The story itself, I think, is strong. Basically, the setup for the film is Riley is going to a 3-day hockey camp. She's graduating middle school and going into high school. And this isn't, I'm not spoiling anything. She's going to a 3-day hockey camp, and she wants to make the hockey team as a freshman, but she's also starting puberty. Like, this movie, the new emotions are coming from puberty. So I really like how self-contained the story is, that we are just getting the whole movie as a 3-day hockey camp. I think that's really clever to just give us like this ignition of puberty. It's very interesting. It feels like a very simplified version of puberty, which is, it's fine. It doesn't show everything with puberty. It's just simply puberty starting and, emotions kind of starting to develop. But I really like that the movie doesn't spread itself too thin. I think it maintains a strong focus, sometimes to its detriment, but the movie feels very bite-sized. I like this. I really like the, as I said, the 3-day hockey camp, but I think hockey is a great vessel for this story, like kind of like tennis and challengers. It's like using a sport as a vessel to show character growth and changes in people. I really love the use of hockey in this, that Riley's emotions are really tied to herself as a hockey player. So I really enjoyed that. And, anxiety, I really related to it as someone that played competitive sports growing up. A lot of anxiety can come from wanting approval of a coach, or trying to fit into a new team environment. I played on this one team for 3 months, and it was so hard to fit in. It was all of these rich kids from another part of Ottawa that I just found very hard to identify with, because they all came from a very rich and privileged lifestyle. They were all very spoiled, and it just kind of showed in their personification as a player and how they treated their teammates. So I really enjoyed that aspect of trying to fit into a new team, and how you characterize yourself, or how you have to kind of change yourself a little bit to fit in with a new environment, which we all experience in our different paths in life. And let's talk about the animation, because it is a Pixar movie. It's fine. I think Pixar is not what it was 24 years ago with like the Toy Story movies, because now you have phenomenal animation coming from everywhere in Disney, Pixar, Sony, DreamWorks, Illumination, with the Minions movies and stuff. Like, animation is not just a Pixar gig now, and they really have to step up their game, which I think they do in a couple parts, but it is underutilized. And I won't spoil it, but there's a couple of different animation styles we see in this, and for me, I think that's a concept that they really brushed over a little too fast, and that disappointed me in that sense. There are 3 characters that are animated in a different style. It reminded me of Spider-Verse, because all of the Spider-Verse characters are animated in different frame rates or whatever, and different animation styles. So I enjoyed that bit, and I really like that about the Spider-Verse movies, but for me, it felt kind of wasted in this movie, because they only include it in about 3 scenes, I want to say, not even, maybe 2 scenes. So that was a little disappointing for me, to be honest. But for the most part, I still think this is like a very nice movie to watch. It's very pleasing to look at. I think the animation and the drawings and how the emotions all look, like it's very visually interesting, the story and all the memories and going through Riley's mind. And there's like good puns in this, like anxiety or a sarcasm or a brainstorm. Like there's just very funny puns and stuff like that. And there's a lot of great writing in this film. They introduced this new concept of every memory or experience that Riley has builds like this pool of belief, and all of these kind of branches of belief build into a one thing, which is Riley's sense of self. And that was a really interesting addition. That's kind of the MacGuffin of this film. And I thought that was just so brilliantly introduced at the start of the film, because we all do have these different experiences in our life that are all individual branches that are a part of our sense of self and our sense of identity and who we are. This story is a real battle over who is Riley's sense of self and who is her identity, and Joy kind of ignoring certain emotions in the adventure, or in the attempt to build Riley's sense of self. So I really like that addition. Like, this is not an entirely wasteful sequel, and I think it's little things like that make it, or that justify its existence, I would say. And I really like the kind of dynamic of Riley and her friends in this film, because in the last movie, in Inside Out 1, it's not really about like Riley having friends because she moves to a new school, and it's more about her struggling to fit in or not liking her new environment. But I really liked her and her friends in this film, and kind of the story about her, because the whole story is that her 2 friends are going to go to a different high school, and that's kind of the setup for this 3-day hockey camp. And I won't spoil like what unravels from that. But we've all been there. We've all had experiences in our life where, friends go to a different school after you go to school together for years. And that really hit me like a brick. And I lost friends in high school because they went to a different high school. One of my best childhood friends went to a different high school. And it is pretty heartbreaking. It's pretty devastating. Okay, let's get into perhaps what I didn't enjoy so much, or maybe just the flaws of the story. Pacing wise, I think it is a little bit rushed, this movie. I think it could have used 10 more minutes to kind of just sit with a couple of ideas. 95 minutes I understand it's a children's movie. Okay, I think all criticism should be taken with like a grain of salt. This is a children's movie, but I do think everybody could enjoy this. But having said that, I do think it is pretty rushed in parts. Like, it feels like we are brushing over certain ideas or certain aspects or new things they're introducing. I do think we are just like running through it. It's shown once and it's shown shortly, and that's it, and we move on. So I don't know, a little frustrating at times, because when you're finding your footing and enjoying certain aspects, then it just goes to the next scene and you're like, oh, I was just starting to enjoy that. But okay, so maybe the pacing suffered a little bit for me. I didn't enjoy that. Although I said, like, I feel like this is a justified sequel, for me, this is largely the same film as Inside Out. And I won't say spoilers, I won't say specifics, but it is almost the exact same film story-wise. Maybe not like resolution and certain story beats don't go down the exact same way, but it has the same messaging. It has the exact same kind of problems and issues and character moments as the first one. So that was a little bit frustrating for me, that we're kind of just watching the same movie but with a few new characters. But it is, the new characters do make it a little more enjoyable. It is kind of a different set of circumstances, I guess, so that is like a fun part, but it is a little frustrating at times. I won't lie, it was a little annoying that I was like, every time we were kind of introduced to something new that wasn't in the first one and we're enjoying it, we kind of get derailed into going back into old things that we saw in the original Inside Out. So that was a little annoying for me, that it's like, okay, if say you're taking your child to go see Inside Out 2, so you think, okay, we're gonna watch Inside Out 1 and then we're going to go and watch this new one. Are people going to be annoyed, or are kids going to be annoyed that these are just the exact same movies? Roughly, the way I would describe it is like Star Wars A New Hope, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Like, you can see they're very identical movies where things just kind of go down a little bit differently. So it is what it is. But I think this movie largely works because we have learned to love these characters from the first one. So this movie is kind of riding the coattails of the first one, which, isn't a terrible thing. thing. It knows what it's good at and it kind of sticks to that, which I think is a smart thing sometimes when, making things, you need to find what people enjoy and really dive into those and give them more of what they want. So I get it. I do feel like this movie owes a lot of its success just to stealing things from the first movie. But look, overall, let me sum up my non-spoiler thoughts here. I do think this is an important movie for young people to see, especially teenagers, to understand kind of what they're going through. And it doesn't talk down to teenagers. It doesn't talk down to children, just like the first one did. But I think everybody can kind of enjoy this film because it does speak to the changes in our lives that bring anxiety, and anxiety takes control. And I think this is like a good family movie for people to see. Maybe, I don't know. I know teenagers probably don't go to the movies with their parents, but it's something that I think a lot of families could bond over this movie to recognize what they're going through in their lives, and the parent-child dynamic changing, or friends understanding the dynamics changing within themselves. So I gave it 4 out of 5. I did enjoy it. I didn't walk out feeling like that was a waste of time. I did. I cried. I walked out, and it was sad to me, and it was a good story. I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like it was a wasted sequel. So I would recommend Inside Out too. I think if you like the first one, you're gonna like the second one. I don't think it's as good as the first one, of course, but that's a hard bar to reach. So it's still a great sequel to see. I think it just needs to be solid, and it was solid. Okay, we're going to get into spoilers. You've been warned. You shouldn't be listening to this part if you don't want to hear spoilers. So what are you still doing here? You're wanting to avoid spoilers. Skip to the next section. Go to what else I watched. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Spoiler time. The depiction of Riley's panic attack was one of my favorite scenes in the film. I just thought it was so amazingly done and had such a perfect depiction, because like an anxiety attack does feel like, anxiety is running in a hamster wheel that's just like impossible to stop, and it's going so fast that no other emotion can even take control or be experienced, because all you're focusing on is the anxiety. And the heavy breathing, the wanting to like grab onto fabrics, I find is like, I don't know, it was just so well done. And it's Riley's first panic attack that she's experiencing. And I just thought, again, going to Maya Hawke's depiction of anxiety in this film and the writing of anxiety in this film, it's just so well done that it's like the best crescendo in this film is the anxiety attack. And it's such a pivotal part of the story where Riley is really digging herself into a hole and kind of losing her sense of self, and this false sense of self that anxiety has built, that, she's not a good person. And we've all been there, where anxiety makes us think things about ourselves that just aren't true, and sometimes like very harmful things. So that was just one of my favorite parts of the film, was the anxiety attack. I thought that was just so beautifully done. And it really, I don't know, just spoke to me in a great way that a lot of other parts of the film didn't. And like I said, I know how it feels to lose a friend who goes to another school. So that was a very sad part of the film for me, where she is told that her friends are going to a different high school, and she just has this huge wave of sadness. And I really like the payoff to that, where they could still be friends. Just because they're not going to the same school doesn't mean they need to, lose contact with each other. They can still hang out. And that's not always the case for people, of course. But that was just another aspect of the story that I really liked. What I think is really well done in this film is I enjoyed all of the parts with Riley, and I enjoyed all the parts with the emotions of Riley. Like, I wasn't finding myself kind of saying, okay, I don't care about like all the Riley real life stuff. I just want to see all the emotions. I actually did enjoy all of the parts with just Riley, where we're seeing her live these new events and sneaking into Coach's office, or trying to fit in with the older kids and kind of ditching her friends and acting like a person that she isn't, and losing her authentic self. So that was something that I just really enjoyed, was this constant battle Riley's going through of new friends versus old friends, or people that she wants to be friends with, or whatever. I seriously loved that aspect of this film, and I think that's where it earned a lot of credit for me. It was making both storylines interesting. There wasn't one part that I was favoring over the other. And I know I didn't have a glowing review of Amy Poehler as Joy. I think she was fine. Like, I think Amy Poehler is very good at everything she's in, and I love her as a performer. Leslie Knope is one of my favorite characters in like any TV show. But I will give her credit, because Joy getting carried away in this film, and once again having to learn that she can't be the only emotion in charge, and there's even more emotions now to make way for that all have their own place. Joy turning into delusion was one of my favorite parts of the story, and Joy realizing realizing that she is delusional and she's hurting Riley by giving her a false reality. And she's been throwing all these memories to the back of her mind, and it's just a flood of memories. That was such a great part, and I really enjoyed that. I just really like what they did with the Joy character. I think it was very reinventive and it was really well done. And I think it needed to happen for the story, that there needed to be more complicated aspects of Joy, because in the first movie, like, okay, great, she discovers that, sadness has a place or whatever. You can't just do that again, which they do in this film. They just do that again. But I think her being kind of her own villain, and it was taken up a notch in this film, which I really enjoyed. So Joy. That was a pun. Just what they do with Joy in this film is just really great, that she feels even worse about herself. She feels like she's hurting Riley even more, but she still cares about Riley. And I think maybe my only gripe with the first movie is that it feels like Joy is the only character or the only emotion that cares about Riley sometimes. But in this film, it feels like anxiety really does care about Riley, and she is so protective over her. So I really enjoyed that aspect, that it feels like in this movie, all of the emotions actually do care about Riley, which was just really well done. And I enjoyed that part. And one of the better, I think, dynamics in this film was definitely the friendship of embarrassment and sadness, because for me in life, embarrassment and sadness really do go hand in hand most of the time. Like, you get embarrassed, it makes you sad, it spirals into anxiety and being ashamed, and just the teamwork between, embarrassment and sadness in this film was just really well done. And I seriously enjoyed that. It was one of my favorite parts of the movie, and the introduction of embarrassment, who only has one line. Just really awesome. I really loved that character and how they bonded with sadness. And my favorite characters actually were the ones that weren't even emotions. So like I said, they use other animation styles. So they have a video game character called Lance Slashblade, who is one of Riley's crushes from a video game she played. Then we have Bluefy and Pouchy, who are from a preschool show that Riley actually secretly still enjoys, because they go into like this vault place that has all of Riley's hidden thoughts or secrets or whatever, which to be honest, I thought there's this one character called Her Deepest Darkest Secret or whatever, and I thought they were maybe going to plant like an Easter egg that Riley is perhaps gay. And I was like, oh, are we about to get this right now? But then it doesn't pay off. And I was very confused. Like, wait, are they trying to reveal that Riley's gay or like hint at it? And then I go onto Letterboxd and I look at so many reviews and other people are thinking that. I'm like, okay, I'm glad I wasn't like getting carried away with myself or something like that, that it did seem like other people were also thinking that. But anyways, my three favorite characters in this film were definitely actually the new ones of Pouchy, Bluefy, and Lance Slashblade. Lance Slashblade is done in kind of like a Kingdom Hearts type Final Fantasy animation, and then Bluefy and Pouchy are done like a Dora the Explorer old school type animation, and they're just hilarious. Like every time Pouchy comes on screen, him and Poofy turn to the crowd and start talking to us and are like, do you know which way to blah blah blah, or I have 3 items, which one would help us escape? A tomato, duct tape, dynamite. And it's just a really good laugh every single time. So I thought, like, the way they use these new characters to get out of certain situations all the time was really great, but that goes into the pacing issues, because I feel like every great moment we're having with these new characters, they just completely rush through. They don't reintroduce them. And it's kind of a bummer, because I thought they were hilarious and they got some of the biggest laughs in my theater, which for a 10 o'clock screening was actually pretty busy. Like, there was quite a few people there, which was nice. Many of them barefoot for some reason. So that was weird, but I think Pouchy was my favorite because Anger just like straight up deep throats him by putting his fist right in his mouth and reaching into the pouch and taking a bunch of dynamite out. It was crazy, but it was so funny. One of my favorite moments in the film. Finally, I think I'll just end the spoiler section with talking about the ending, because I did enjoy the ending. Like, it's Riley's going through this panic attack while she's in the penalty box at the final day scrimmage, where she thinks her making the team is all riding on this scrimmage, which it kind of is. But instead of, being a great teammate and just playing her own game, anxiety takes control and she just starts playing she's a puck hog and she's not playing with her teammates. So I really like that. And then she gets a penalty and she starts having an anxiety attack, and that's where we get that great scene with anxiety. And I really like the ending with her friends, that they come over and check on her, although it's the middle of a scrimmage, and they just like leave the game to come over and check on her. So I just really love that ending, and the way she's at her new school and she's hanging out with all of the players of the team who are all older than her, but they tell her like, hey, Riley, it doesn't matter if you don't make it this year. You're still a freshman. There's always next year. And I kind of like the moment where Riley says, it doesn't matter if I make the team, I'm still going to be happy. There's always next year. I kind of like that they give her this identity outside of just being an athlete, because like I played university soccer. Well, I don't know. I literally got injured like 3 of the 4 years with a concussion, fractured foot, and like a sprained rib. So but anyways, I knew so many people who came to university and their only identity was that they're an athlete. They're a varsity athlete. That's all they care about. And outside of that, they're an absolute dud of a human being. They have no personality. They have no interests. So then when they finish university sports, they have a huge crisis of identity because they don't know who they are. They've never thought about what they actually enjoy in life. I always really was happy with myself that I went to university because I enjoyed my studies. I enjoyed history and English. I didn't just enjoy soccer. That was just like an added bonus that I got to play soccer. So I really like how they personified Riley in the ending, that it didn't really matter if she made the team or not. She was going to be happy either way and just be Riley for a while, which I enjoyed. But, the final moments of the film are her getting the buzzing sound of the coach posting the list, and she smiles, so it's clear that she did make the team. And it was a very happy ending. I seriously enjoyed that. But okay, let's read a couple of Letterboxd reviews just quickly. Kev Flicks and Chill gave it 4 stars. They said, I've been skeptical because Pixar sequels have been generally my least favorite. This is a genuinely great film, though, that thoughtfully expands on the premise and is incredibly relatable to kids and adults of all ages. Looking for a way for Maya Hawke's voice to replace Siri on my phone. Wholehearted recommended for families. Yeah, I think they make such a great point that this is just like a very thoughtful progression of the last film, and Maya Hawke's performance is, I would give a lot of credit to Maya Hawke's performance because I think that's possibly the best aspect of this sequel. Chris Bowie, may have said that wrong, gave it 4.5 stars. They said it feels damn good to say that Pixar has a real winner on their hands with this sequel. Inside Out 2 is clever, charming, heartwarming, and funny, all while tackling a universally relatable concept that is puberty. Has all the makings of a Pixar classic. Side note, things got a little too personal when anxiety entered the picture. Let's get into some lower ratings. 3.5 stars. A strawberry watermelon vape would have calmed Riley down. Okay. 3.5 stars. It's good, but it's missing something, and it's not a horniness emotion. Yeah, there are so many reviews that were like, what about horniness? It's like, relax. It's a kid's movie. Inside Out 2, 3 stars. Anger and Pouchy matched each other's freak. Yep, I'm telling you, those were literally 2 of the best characters. 3.5 stars. A Xanax could have solved this whole movie. 3.5 stars. I don't know how to stop anxiety. Maybe we can't. Maybe this is what happens when you grow up. You feel less joy. End quote. Bawling. Yeah, that was my favorite quote of the movie, to be honest. I seriously lost it in the theater when Joy said that. I was like, God damn, that cuts deep. Yeah, that's been Inside Out 2. On the whole, enjoyed it. Thought it was pretty good for the most part. There were some aspects I didn't enjoy as much, but let's get into what else I watched this week. Okay, so I watched a few things this week. I, of course, watched Inside Out 1 before the new one came out, and it was very good. It still holds up like insanely well. I actually watched it with one of my classes when I was on a teaching placement, and damn, I got emotional in the class watching it. But yeah, Inside Out 1, still very good. Inside Out, sorry, I won't call it Inside Out 1. I also watched The Acolyte, which is the new Star Wars show. I'm going to save most of my thoughts for when the series is done, and I'm going to do a full episode on it. For the most part, I will say it's pretty solid. I actually enjoyed it. It's an interesting story. The effects seem pretty decent. It still kind of has that ugly Disney Plus, Disney cinematography that they use in all the Marvel stuff and Star Wars stuff now. So I think it's visually pretty hideous, but it's an interesting story and I like the mystery of it. So I enjoyed that. And the episode 3 is out, so I'm going to watch that today, probably after Germany, Scotland. I finished rewatching X-Men, and on second watch is even like more fun and enjoyable, just going back and picking up so many more things that you didn't really see the first time. So I rewatched episodes 4 to 10 because I had watched 1 to 4 before last week. And last weekend, my girlfriend was home for her birthday and we watched No Country for Old Men, which is one of my favorite movies ever. I want to read the book after I finish all of the Dune books, which I started Children of Dune this week, and I really like it so far. No Country for Old Men, just what a crazy movie. I love the chase. I love the who's the predator, predator, who's the prey, and the changing of roles you see throughout the entire film. It's just so good. I would say that's probably Josh Brolin's career best. He is so good as Llewellyn Moss. And I mean, Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh is just seriously terrifying. One of the scariest villains and so odd. He's such an odd human being. But yeah, No Country for Old Men, I've probably seen it like 5 times now. And I think it just gets better upon every rewatch. And especially the ending, like no spoilers, but the ending is just really makes me think more every time about, I don't know, just life. It's weird. It's a very philosophical movie, which I seriously enjoyed. So No Country for Old Men, if you haven't seen it, watch it because it's just so great. But something new that I watched this week apart from The Acolyte, I watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I started season 16 because it's now on Disney Plus. I watched episodes 1 to 3. They're all very funny. The fact that Charlie has this whole other room in his apartment and a bathroom, and everybody wants to live with him now, and the gang does inflation is just so funny. And the Frank being a chess champion episode with the vibrating butt plug is just so crazy, but it is so funny. I was absolutely dying. And it's so amazing to me that I think Sunny really only has one less great season, which is the season where Dennis is leaving. That is the only season that I'm like, okay, this is fine. But the rest of them I actually find hilarious. I enjoy them all. I think they're all really great. And they just keep telling good stories. And I think credit to them, they're proving all of these right-wing boomer comedians wrong, that oh, you can't say anything anymore. You can't joke about anything. You can joke about anything and speak about anything, but you have to do it in the right way. And you have to do it from kind of the right side of this point of view. And I think Sunny is a testament to that. That is such a fascinating show to just study by itself, because the subjects they've talked about over the years are crazy. Looking back, one of the first episodes is about abortion, and it's just one of the funniest things ever. So seriously, Sunny needs to be studied in a university or college course and talked about versus, Jerry Seinfeld, who complains about cancel culture or whatever, but really good. Okay, I also finished Spider-Man PS5. I really enjoyed it. I can't remember even who was the villain in the first Spider-Man movie. Oh, here comes my dog, Gracie. Hello, Gracie, what you doing? She's just standing there. Anyways, Spider-Man PS5 was so great. I actually really enjoyed it. I think the symbiote, that's how I'm going to go forward saying it. The symbiote use of that was really great, and the symbiote suit was really fun. If you haven't played it yet and you have a PS5, I would recommend it. It is a very fun game that I think you'll enjoy, and the suits look really cool. There's lots of different suits that you can put on. I've been trying every time I do a mission, change my suit or whatever now that I've finished it, and there's still tons of stuff to do after you finish the main storyline, which I always really like in a game. So yeah, that was really good. I had a lot of fun playing that. And the final thing I want to talk about is a music album by Charlie XCX. It's called Brat. This is perhaps my favorite album of the year so far, and we've had good albums. We've had Chappell Roan have new music, Olivia Rodrigo with Guts, Dua Lipa with Radical Optimism, but I have to say, Brat by Charlie XCX, crazy album. If you like club music, if you like soft pop, if you like dance music, it is the perfect album. I think Guess is one of iconic tracks of the year. I just wanted to throw this in here because it's all I've been listening to this week while I was driving to my graduation and back. I played a lot of Charlie XCX. I don't know how my parents felt about it, but it was so great. I seriously loved it. And yeah, lots of stuff that I watched this week, and I'm planning on watching tons of soccer, but I'm still going to watch probably Bad Boys 3, Bad Boys 4. I'm taking my friend to go see the new Apes movie tomorrow because he hasn't seen it. And yeah, I'll watch Bad Boys. Tonight, I think I'm going to watch episodes 1 to 3 of The Boys after I finish editing. Sorry, my dog's snoring so loudly. I don't even know, can you hear that? But lots of stuff that I'm watching, and it's good. We're in summer. The Bear is a few weeks away, and The Acolyte is going, so lots of good stuff. And I think that about does it for episode 22 of Watcher of All Things, Inside Out 2. I promise next week we're going to talk about Kinds of Kindness. I'm very much looking forward to it. As always, please rate and review this podcast. Give it 5 stars. Let me know what you think in the ratings. You can text it to a friend, actually, if you hit the share on all of the streaming platforms, whether it is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Acast. You can share it with a friend, recommend it to them. Why not let them watch it or listen to it? Sorry. You can also find it on YouTube if that's where you get your podcasts. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. You can hit the notification bell so you know whenever I upload shorts or videos or the podcast. You can comment on it. What's your favorite Pixar movie? I'm genuinely curious, like what's people's favorite Pixar movie? You can not only let me know on the YouTube, you can also email the show, watcherofallthings@gmail.com, or find me on Instagram at TikTok, which are both now at watcherofallthings. I finally changed the username of the TikTok. So comment on the videos, comment underneath, whatever. Let me know, what's your favorite Pixar movie? How did you feel about Inside Out 2? What are maybe some Pixar movies you'd be okay with getting a sequel to? Because I think like The Incredibles was such a bad sequel for me. I thought that was kind of a waste. It's not bad, but I thought it was a waste. Whereas I think Inside Out 2 is pretty okay. You can follow me on Letterboxd as well, Kiki J70. That's KIKI J70. So yeah, rate and review 5 stars, like, comment, subscribe. Hit me up on all of the socials, on whatever. This week, I also want to highlight the great work that the crisis relief from the UN is doing. You can help the people in Gaza. The United Nations and humanitarian partners are delivering life-saving assistance. Your donation will go to the Occupied Palestinian Territory Humanitarian Fund, one of the quickest and most effective ways to support urgent relief on the ground. The fund collects contributions continuously so it can directly support a wide range of partners to address the highest priority humanitarian activities. The fund is managed by the United Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs on behalf of Humanitarian Coordinator. So you can find that link underneath. I will leave that in the description as well. Thank you all so much for listening. As I said, next week, Kinds of Kindness, potentially the bike riders as well, but I might save that for 2 weeks from now. We'll see, but definitely Kinds of Kindness next week. I promise, okay? I'm not going to leave you hanging like I did this week. Thanks so much for listening. As always, I hope you're enjoying your summer, and I will see you in the next one.